Hi guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome back to Invictus Launch Week. We are here for the second day, and as I was making my way up towards the hall, I came across this NPC, and yes, she is an NPC. Oh, she's cute. No, it was more the hat that took me by surprise, because I'm like, what in... I've never seen a hat like that in Star Citizen. So this is either someone showing off, or whatever. She knows I'm just staring at her through the bloody helmet, because I'm like, what a strange looking hat. But yes, so we're on the second day. Well, technical second day. I always consider days where there are different ship manufacturers to be the second, third, and fourth days, theoretically. So we are on Aegis Dynamics Day, and we get to have a few little cool treats whilst I walk around. If the elevator would be so kind as to open, that would be even better. But yes, we get to witness the wonderful little place and all that jazz, which is wonderful. I do enjoy this. Frames are, touch wood, a little bit better than they were on the previous recording. So, Emperor willing. Oh, I literally just opened my mouth and the game was like, you talking about frames? Well, Sonny Jim, this is Star Citizen. You've got to have a NASA-graded computer before you're allowed to have them frames. Who do you think you are? God. Anyway, so once again we are introduced to the universe. Oh, so wonderful. Filled to the brim with a whole bunch of stuff. This is Aegis Day, and we have quite a fair amount of things to look into, which is pretty cool. So once my computer decides it wants to start working, let's have a look-see. So we have a whole host of different ships to work with. Well, Aegis is quite a big company, so as per usual, we'll roll through the rings. The first is to go through. We'll probably go through this sort of section quite quickly. Make our way towards the Vanguard series before heading over towards the Eclipse and the Warlocks, before making our way down to the holodeck. So without further ado, let us get started on day 2. So here we are, Invictus Launch Week, and we are on Aegis Day. Ah, Aegis. Close to being one of my favorite ship manufacturers. But yeah, it's difficult to say. When I first started Star Citizen, I would say Aegis was the first notable ship manufacturers that entered into my stream of thought. And there was a set of ships, which I'll get into later, but we'll talk about we'll talk about a few things. First of all, though, let's talk about this ship to my right. Actually, no, quick history on Aegis Dynamics before we start. Aegis Dynamics is obviously a military ship manufacturer, but their ties are a little bit more controversial since they were the main ship providers to the Measure regime, the very same Measure regime that genocided an entire planet in the form whilst attempting to terraform it. Now, since the Measure regime fell apart, Aegis Dynamics wasn't quite able to be completely yeeted alongside them due to the fact that a large majority of the UEE Navy at that time were utilizing ships made by Aegis. So, instead of getting their potential comeuppance, they simply lost all their contracts to the military, which, in the grand scheme of things, I say is a little bit getting off lightly, but you never know. Profit margins and all that jazz. So anyway, Aegis Dynamics, however, regardless of their bad taste, attempted to simply make more ships for the combat universe, providing some of the more useful vessels out there, whilst also designing and inaugurating other vessels into the verse, including this, the Redeemer. Now, in terms of actual real-life lore, this was a community project. Star Citizen, CIG sort of said, hey guys, do you want to make a ship? Do you want us to design a ship? And the community were like, hell yeah! And this particular vessel originally started out as a sort of troop transport, but then it evolved into a gunship. And to be fair, it is a pretty wonderful gunship. It's got extremely good shields. It's got shields. It's got itself a pretty nice array of firepower. We've got the M5A cannons there. You've got some size 4 DAKKAs, and you have these size 4 Gatling guns as well on the turrets, which is pretty nice. I can't quite remember. It's like the 5S7B, and I can never quite remember the names of them. I will remember, you know, eventually, as my knowledge gets better and better, I'll be able to not only quote the size of the weapons, but also just like off by heart know exactly what each weapon is. You also have some remote turrets as well, which gives some extra firepower buff to them. But if I was a sort of finger quotes average man, I'd say this particular ship is probably needs just a crew a size of 3 rather than the 4 that it suggests. There's a 4th bed, but the 4th guy would only be using the remote turrets, which, yeah, I guess not as optimal fun in terms of gameplay. So as you can see, we've got a little bit of a cargo space on the side, and I did own this, and I do mean did, yes, because this was a ship that when I was, if you may recall in previous Invictus launches and IAEs, I was losing my shit over this thing. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. And it's still a pretty damn cool vehicle ship. We've got the rearward turret area housing the top turret, and if we make our way through to this little point here, we also have the lower facing turret with the 2 remote turret accesses to the front. If memory serves correctly, the front turret, the remote turret, is actually the M5A guns that, if there is no one in the remote turret seat, the pilot gets control over. But if there is a remote turret, then obviously the remote turret guy gets their front thing. So there are multiple crew members for this vessel, and that's kind of the reason why I stopped really enjoying to use this particular ship. You know, it's got its charm, it's definitely got its fun. I think we've seen enough of the front section to last a lifetime. But for me, in my personal experience, I actually found that while I was utilizing it a fair amount and had some pretty good moments with it, I kind of found myself just staring, going, I feel like, you know, 2/3 of my firepower, it's not with me. And I kind of like having firepower. And a ship that of this size and scale, you really need more than one person to effectively fly it. Like, if you've got a friend who is on Star Citizen a lot, and you're always on when he is, and you can do some things, or she, of course, then, yeah, this thing is perfect, because you can man one of the guns, either the top or the lower turret, and you can have a lot of fun. But apart from that, it really doesn't do much for me anymore, and that's a shame. But at the same time, I'm not going to shit on this aircraft, well, shit, I keep saying aircraft, spacecraft. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that when you fly solo, ships like the Redeemer just don't have a solo player's mindset. It doesn't quite have all. It doesn't have all you need to fly effectively solo. So yeah, no. As I said, it was a lot of fun when I owned this particular ship, but now I am moving on to greener pastures, which of course we'll talk more into later on. Going from multi-crew ship to, well, kind of a multi-crew ship, but I would say, given its particular style of fighting, if you do get bum-rushed by enemy opponents, it doesn't really matter if you had multi-crew, you're dead anyway. This is, of course, the Retaliator, or the Tally, as its nickname goes by. And this particular vessel is rather a unique case, because this particular ship is going to be, well, this is currently the largest amount of firepower that I am aware of inside a flyable ship in Star Citizen. And what do you mean by, you know, largest amount of firepower inside of that's a flyable ship? Because, you know, you had the Crusader Industries with their Psi-7 Gatling guns. You've got other ships with their freaking massive array of weapons. What could you possibly mean? Oh, I don't know. Could it be the size 9 torpedoes? Fucking 6 of them. Or is it 9 now? I think it's 9. Yeah, you got a few. Just a smidge. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. These things are ridiculous, and they will do, you know, just the right level of damage. Like, they will make anyone's day go bad. And, yeah, this particular ship is extremely lethal. The only reasons why I'm not such a huge fan of this particular ship is it feels very restrictive. If we hop into the pilot seat, to be fair, it's quite a... It's got the same kind of... Oh, okay, my character is looking into the distance. There we go. It's got a decent array of MFDs. Not a huge amount on the visual frontier, but again, the main incentive of this particular ship and the way that you would be... the way that you would be utilizing this combat vessel is more in the sense of just you are spamming the missiles from this vessel into oncoming targets. Yeah, might as well. And hoping that there's none left before you yeet it out of there. You do have turret access, and if you're wanting to take, no chances, then yeah, definitely take multi-crew options. But in terms of what this thing's survivability is when you are getting to the point of being detected, I don't put your odds in high favor. Especially if the thing you're targeting either dodges the torpedoes you set against it, or, yeah, if someone dodges the torpedoes you get it, you're fucked. Just straight up fucked. But, no, I mean, I said, in terms of, like, combat prowess, this vessel is quite good for that. I've not seen one in quite some time in actual combat, but I'm thinking as time goes by and we start getting more capital ships, when obviously Pyro comes into it, this vessel may come into its own. Though, admittedly, another thing that makes this vessel quite a nice one, and will be more of a feature in the future, is when modular ships become a thing, this vessel will be one of the vessels that you can get, that you can either trade out the torpedoes for cargo space, or for, I think, transportation. So you can get a more militarized version or a civilian version of the Tally as well. Though, at the moment, she is a murder machine, regardless of how you view it. But still, murder machine. Very nice for multi-crew. And now, we move on to what I would call the OG of multi-crew. This is the Hammerhead, and very nice paint scheme, by the way. This is the ship that I would say to anyone who was intrigued in Star Citizen. I'd said, this is the ship that I talk about when I talk about multi-crew, because it's you've got a friend who's the pilot, followed by 6 other friends who will hop into these turrets of size 5s, quad size 5s, and basically go DAKKA about in all fun shapes. It is ridiculous. You've got four quad turrets, 2 on the starboard, 2 on port side, 1 at the stern, and 1... What would a naval term be for something like this? I don't know. Whilst I'm waiting for my frames to come back. I honestly would love to know, actually, what I would consider this... what I would consider this, because... Would it be north? South? I'm going to just go on the top. So as you can see, when my frames decide to come back, unfortunately, once again, there's not really a lot I can do or change. Like, I've adjusted my recording software and everything. At this point, it is just Star Citizen being Star Citizen. Ever since persistent entity streaming's come into its own, it's loved this, and I think I've crashed, have I? Nope, we've just about made it. Okay, good. That's really wonderful game. I do appreciate when you decide you want to start working. Hopefully, those lag spikes will be few and far between. Yeah, it's this landing zone, but oh well. So, the Aegis Hammerhead. This thing is an absolute wonder. Well, to put it simply, it's a gunboat. It has, I said, 6 turrets, 4 on the sides, 1 on the rear, 1 on the top, and it is wonderful in terms of firepower. It does, of course, have its limitations. primarily, if you're the pilot, you're not really going to have a great visual all around, but I will be showing you one of the second reason why I love this thing. And if anyone is ever new to Star Citizen, I'd seriously recommend, if someone gives you the opportunity to fly in a Hammerhead, and you get to go DAKKA bouts, by all means, you should do it. Like, you should have that experience on being in a Hammerhead in combat once. Because having been on it a few times myself, it is quite a wonderful feeling. I remember years ago doing a sort of combat mission, and this was before they changed how the guns worked in Star Citizen, when the ballistics had more ammunition and didn't do nearly as much damage, but still enough to make a difference. It's basically, a friend had set up the Hammerhead. All of the turrets, they all had Gatling guns. And we were just like, oh! And so we had this sort of player versus player moment where someone showed up for like 0.2 nanoseconds before they were eviscerated by quad Gatling gun fire. It was ridiculous, but fun as all hell. And of course, any proprietary owner of this vessel would let you know it is well contained. If put into the right situation, it can lock down a particular territory. This particular ship came in roughly around the first jump town, and a fair amount of players were having a lot of fun dealing with this particular ship alongside other stuff, whilst also doing the jump town mission. So there is a bit of a heritage with that as well, and I do like that in this particular ship. But anyway, we're going down the ladder now because I'm going to be talking to you about my second favorite thing about this ship. And it's the only ship in Star Citizen that has this at the moment, which is walkable bridges. Like, actually being able to look down onto the planet from within the bridge. I fell in love with this concept when watching Halo Wars cutscenes, when I was actually playing through Halo Wars the first time. I think I even did a series in... Did I do a series, or did I just complete the game? I can't remember, but regardless... I played through that game, and there was a cutscene where they were looking down on the planet from a glass station, and I fell in love with that as a concept. And when I finally got to do that in Star Citizen, oh boy, I was in love. I was like, I love this kind of bridge. And that's now pretty much my favorite bridge of all time. I wish I could have more of bridges like that. However ludicrous they are, I want that. I really want that so bad. Right, let's see if I can not die doing this. There we go. So, yeah, the Hammerhead. Once again, a ship that I could never possibly own because, good God, there is no reason for me to own this vessel. But holy shit, is it fun to be in when you've got a few friends and you're having a bit of a laugh. Anyway, let's now move to the second room in our tour. So we make our way into the second room, and as you can see, oh, those frames. Now, as you can see, we have a whole host of very nice looking, very F-14 Tomcat-styled, beautiful ships known as the Vanguard series. We have the Vanguard Harbinger, we have the Vanguard Hoplite. I believe that is the Hoplite. Yes, that's the Hoplite, that's the Warden, and that one in the distance is the Sentinel. I always get a bit of a moment where I'm like, because I remember those the Vanguard had a slightly different skin when I first had it. So, yes, the Vanguard series. These particular ships are heavy fighters, or in the Hoplite's case, somewhat heavy, sluggish. Oh god, I said frames and Star Citizen heard me. Or in the Hoplite's case, or Hoplite, this case, a sort of sluggish, well, a fast-ish troop transport, which can take about 6 guys, 5 to 6 guys. And these particular vessels are quite wondrous. This particular one, the Harbinger, being quite, or I used to say the Hellbringer, because for some reason Harbinger is something that I struggle to say. It basically utilizes a size 5 DAKKA cannon, along with size 2 fixed DAKKA cannon, which Actually, no, I think it's a size 5 gimbal with a size 4 gun. My apologies. So yes, the size... So this thing has a size 4 gimbal. Sorry, size 5. So size 5 gimbal with a size 4 cannon. Along with 4 size 2 fixed cannon arrays. Now what makes this vessel also pretty potent as a fighter, apart from having a few size 2 missiles attached, is if we now hop into the back of the vessel. Come on. Who's a good ship? You are. I guess we still don't have that. God, are we still... Yeah, no, it's still got that lovely backdoor access problem. Have they really not updated the visuals on this thing yet? Huh. I don't want to rent it. I want to open the door. There we go. So, the unique thing about this particular vessel is that it has size 5 torpedoes. And this makes this particular... And that makes this particular vessel quite the danger to any and all who face her. And we'll just hop into it. So it's got a crew of 2, normally. But this is more kind of the vessel that I'm talking about in terms of what a solo player can utilize. And we've got a lot of firepower with this thing. Visually, it's quite a nice little array of... It's got a decent visual form, so you can see quite a bit out of the cockpit, which is a nice little feature. A little bit less than what you could with the Redeemer, but again, this vessel is vastly more focused as a solo vessel. Now, yes, you do get the gunner slots at the top, but the positioning of the turret at the top kinda negates the reason for it being there. Kind of. I mean, the thing is, yes, it can, as you can see, be quite helpful, but it can be quite helpful if it wasn't placed at the top there, giving you almost no sort of thing for the bottom. So in a sense, you could kind of ignore that, which a lot of players do. And this thing is quite a dangerous thing, quite a dangerous and potent vessel. Go into this one. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So 6 soldiers can hop into this vessel. We no longer have any living conditions, but this thing is designed for a spec ops team. Though to be brutally honest with you, you don't really need seats in a vessel like that. You can find seats in the form of the toilet. You can find seats in the form of the gunner seat. Like, you could probably get up to, like, maybe 5 or 6 inside the other variants and have better uses out of that, though that's my own personal opinion on the matter. Going over to the other side of the Vanguards, we now start to look at Vanguards that I am more personally interested in. The first, which I am a big fan of, but at the same time I'm also, like, carefully wary, because this is the Vanguard Sentinel, which has the best internals of the Vanguard series. As you can see by its colors, it's quite it's not sort of celebrating Invictus Launch Week. This is just generally what the colors of the advocacy want to go with. And as you can see, it's got a really cool interior with this beautiful, like, face-mounted standing screen with all the bits of information being siphoned through, and it's really, really cool. It's got a very beautiful light, and I honest to God love it. It's got its own little data panel here. It is so sexy. And it also has a pretty potent set of weapons. Size 4 attrition with the size 2 lasers. Not as good as the size 2 lasers on the Vanguard Warden, but still. But the other treat that this particular vessel has under its bonnet is that it has an EMP generator. Like, by all rights, this particular craft is beautiful, and it, just, it's tellement magnifique. However, unfortunately, we are aware of the fact that in the future, CIG are planning on kind of nerfing this vessel, because not only does it have, it's a heavy fighter with great maneuverability, blah, 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 and it also has an EMP that's kind of broken. And so they're going to eventually nerf this thing in some form or another, which means its value will definitely shrink in terms of what it can field. And I'm going to be sad on that day. So anyway, we will love this thing. We will have to leave it for the true domination of the verse. This is the Vanguard Warden. This is the best it can be. Size 4 Gatling with the best size 2 fixed lasers on this point. So obviously I'm going to detach that. But yes, I actually owned, upgraded from. Then now I'm actually coming back into the process of owning this vessel. I've kind of done a full circle. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a grin on my face, and I'm like, oh, I'm home. You know, for a very long time I used this vessel, and at first I kind of thought, oh, I'm using nothing but this vessel. It really, oh, blah, blah. And then of course I decided I wanted to upgrade in my time of playing Star Citizen. So I was like, okay, let's upgrade and do something bigger. And so I was like, you know, oh, fair enough, and you know, heading off into doing my own thing. And for a few years, I've not utilized this vessel, but now I'm kind of come full swing, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm really feeling more pumped about this vessel, because originally, when I first saw this ship, I fell in love with it. It was a friend of mine had basically flown around with this thing, and I'm like, what is this amazing vessel? This was like when I was first getting back into Star Citizen, like getting properly into Star Citizen back in 2018. And a friend of mine flew around with this thing, and I'm like, what is this beautiful vessel? And yeah, I loved it, and I fell in love with it that way. And like, obviously, as I mentioned, I'd flown this thing for so long, I'd kind of fallen out of love with it. But now I'm kind of falling back in love with this thing because of how much I know. I realize I'm gushing over it. You don't have to escort me from the perimeter. But still, it's so sexy. It's got the gun. It looks like the F-14. It has the lasers. And also, I keep hitting the microphone. And also, it does not have any potential fears of being nerfed in the future, which means this is effectively the top form of spacecraft of the Vanguard series. So, yeah, definitely a big plus in my book. And also, the size 2 lasers, which I cannot remember the names of, you get the best editions of from the get-go. Whereas with the Sentinel, you do actually have to find a place and buy in and upgrade them. So it's not everything working in your favor. You still actually have to work a little bit for that. But still, good effort. Good effort. Right, on to the next few ships in this area. Right, so as we make our way towards the center of the room, we have three mindsets when it comes to fighters in front of us. On the front section, we have what many players will no doubt recognize from the Squadron 42 trailers to the PvP side of things. This is, of course, the Gladius, the king of the roost, the most famous Aegis craft, I would bet, inside Star Citizen. Like, many players, even non-players, will have seen this ship, and it is currently one of the vessels, like the primed vessels, in the UEE Navy, serving alongside the F-7C Hornet, not C-7C, the F-7 Hornet, and a few other things. But as said, you will have no doubt seen the videos on YouTube of the Squadron 42 trailer with Mark Hamill flying alongside, I think even Henry Cavill would be flying the F-8C because of course he would be flying the F-8 Lightning because he's Henry Cavill. I think any lesser would have been an insult to Henry Cavill. Anyway, so this particular vessel is more of a light-style fighter, nipping around, dodging, ducking and weaving, whilst delivering a series of pretty alright sense of firepower. And then we have this. This is the Aegis Sabre. Not as famous as the Aegis Gladius, and a little bit more durable than the Gladius, but this particular vessel is more focused on the shoot and scoot, whereas, while admittedly this vessel is also kind of a shoot and scoot, it kind of ducks and dog fights and weaves and dives, whereas this particular vessel is more about shoot, get the fuck out of here, and then reattempt the process a little bit later on. It does have the capacity for more firepower as well, which is also quite a nice benefit. And is it gimbaled? Is it gimbaled or is it fixed? It is fixed. So those are size 2 fixed weapons, which is not too bad. And it's got a pretty decent, as I said, it's got a pretty decent fighter style. And well, it's in my opinion, I prefer the Saber in terms of aesthetics over the Gladius. Though I won't deny that the Gladius is also pretty. This vessel looks nicer, in my opinion. It's got that nice sort of, it's got the giant engine, it's got the DAKKA, more compact cockpit. It just works. This particular vessel, known as the Saber Comet, is kind of a fuck up, I'll be honest with you. Basically, take all the good things from the Aegis Saber, throw them to the side, and then say, but stealth! And there you go. As you can see, we've got some scatter guns and some shotguns. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there for anyone who isn't in space stuff, but you're not going to need a shotgun in space because it's a shotgun in space. You're not going to be right next to someone when you're shooting. You're going to be kind of far away. So what, if I may ask, in the God Emperor's name, are you going to do with a shotgun in space? I'll just leave it there. But regardless, in terms of aesthetics, it's alright. It's got a slightly snazzed up camo scheme. It's got a tinted glass. It's blue instead of red. But apart from that, you're really just buying a skin for the thing. And as we've got paints for the Star Citizen verse, that's kind of useless anyway. So, no. The Comet is... just there. Just there. It's just there. There's no other real way to describe it. And of course there is the Saber Raven, but that is rarer than fucking God, so, well, you're more... so no. You're more likely to win the lottery than to find a Saber Raven, is all I'm saying. So, that's a fun sort of time. So as you can see, the second room has quite a array of firepower, and one minor disappointment, but we can't all be hoplites, so someone has to be it. Ba-dum-dum-tisk. No, I jest. The hoplite is a useful aircraft in some parts. So anyway, let's now head off into the third room before the holodecks. So as we make our way towards the last room before the holodecks, we are presented with a rather interesting vista. On the outskirts, we are presented with the images of, well, the beginnings of a new Star Citizen player's career. And in the center, we are viewing a rather interesting vista and potentially the end of some careers. I know I had one particular end. I know one player who had an end in one, and I was the one who ended him. So, yes, let us start on the outskirts, though, by talking about, of course, the Avenger series. The rather unique vessels, as obviously there's only one real vessel in here that everyone really knows off by heart, but there are other variants which of course do warrant attention. And if I've hedged my bets right, then I'm going to the right one first time, which is of course the Aegis Avenger Titan. This is what everyone says is the best starter ship in the game. It is universally recognized as the ship that if you're new to Star Citizen, you really want to get. Or it's the best option for you to get if you're new to Star Citizen. 9 times out of 10 is probably the kind of ratio that I would say you should go with. And what do I mean by this? Well, basically, you've got, first of all the weapons on this vessel are gimbaled, which means, of course, that makes it easier for players who don't really know how to fly properly but do want to kind of get into combat to go into combat. You've got a size 3 Gatling gun with a size 4 gimbal, which means you have room to expand your horizons, which is pretty cool. You've got size 2 gimbaled lasers, so not only do you have the minigun at the front, you've got the energy at the back, giving you that total freedom to work around, which, is a pretty good thing. You've then got size 2 missiles, 4 of them, giving you that extra freedom and flexibility to survive. The next really beneficial thing is a cargo bay, which admittedly, due to the release of the cutter, has definitely worn down the it's not as glamorous now because, well, there are cheaper ships that have their own cargo bay, but this one having the most for what's your worth. I mean, what is it? This one, at the price range you're looking at, I mean, the Nomad has 24 SCUs worth of cargo, but it's not got its own integral cargo bay. It's only on an outskirts, whereas this thing, it only has 8 SCUs worth of cargo, but it is a pretty dope-looking cargo bay, and if you're new to the game and you're just doing your first few box missions, this is a pretty fucking cool thing to have. You also have, of course, the bed, which you can log in and out of, regardless of, you can log in or out of inside the verse, and of course, once the bed logging sort of system becomes even more refined, it's kind of funny. Bed logging is one of those myths in Star Citizen that some people sort of go like, "Oh my god, this game, you can't do it." And there's like people who swear by the Bible that you can't do it in the game, and there are people who swear by the Bible that you can do it in the game. It's a rather unique sort of circumstance. But going into the pilot seat, we are also treated to a pretty unique thing when it comes to this ship, is that it also has a pretty open cockpit. Not much in terms of visual to block you, and even it passes what I call the MFD test, where all of the MFDs are... Okay, well, to be fair, that one I think it kind of just passes, because I know that one's primarily to do with the radar, but all of the other particular MFDs are within visual input, so you can actually see all of the important screens within you starting up. If I was to start the craft up now. Good lord, the frames are... The frame drain is real. I do apologize. Come on. Right. There we go, and we don't even have that. Well, let's get out of here before it gets even worse. Definitely need to look into the performance side of things, but still. Oh, hello. Are you the reason why? That t-shirt is a crime. No, as said. So the other main benefit, of course, is the fact that this ship also looks like a plane. So you get your... So in terms of aerodynamics within Atmo and out of Atmo, it's a very easy transition. All in all, this particular ship is perfect for anyone wanting to start in Star Citizen, and it always is a recommendation by, I would say, pretty much every player. The only exceptions of this particular ship that you would probably say to is if a player kind of knows what they want from the get-go, but as a lot of players in Star Citizen aren't really familiar with things, you either would say to them, look, just straight up get the Avenger Titan, and you'll be set for pretty much most, if not all, of your time in Star Citizen, or it's something that you want to upgrade to. Either way, it's beautiful, and I love it. Going on from the Avenger Titan, we now go to the Avenger Warlock, which has a slightly different canopy, which is a really cool-looking canopy, to be fair. It has a few little different things, and the biggest difference, of course, is that it doesn't really have a barrier. It doesn't have a... it doesn't have... Oh, God, imagine being in this when you're drunk. It's making my eyes swim around a bit. But no, this doesn't have a back area. This is instead a giant fucking EMP device, which once you trigger it, well, obviously you're the most popular man in the room, aren't you? But yeah, this particular vessel is a unique thing. I've not really seen this in combat at all. I've not seen this thing being utilized as anything except a meme. But still, it's doable. You can do it. You can get it. I just wouldn't really know what to do with it because, again, it's kind of one of those one-trick pony sort of things. Once you've done that, your vessel's pretty much fucked. And even in the trailer, when the guy triggered his EMP, sure, he triggered the EMP, and it went a very wide traverse, but he also got arrested, like, almost immediately afterwards. Anyway, going into the third before last, which is, of course, the Avenger Stalker, which, of course, is the Bounty Hunter variant. Slightly different armament, And instead of having a cargo bay that you can dump stuff into, you instead have these pods on the side of the vessel where you seal ne'er-do-wells and criminals and all that other jazz inside to be processed later. Actually, fun fact, at the time of this recording, this particular feature is actually a lot closer now. I can't say exactly when it'll be closer, but previously this was sort of a years off sort of thing. And we're kind of like, when at some point in the future. But in all honesty, CIG are starting to talk more seriously about being a private, being a bounty hunter and actually capturing criminals. So you never know. This could in fact be a thing in the near future, whereupon we will be seeing these kind of vessels becoming more of a common sight than we realize. So get in there. Most definitely would be interesting. And this rather abominable quality, this rather terrifying vessel is the Aegis Adventure Renegade. Now, what is the difference between this? Well, it's not got energy weapons. It's got these tarantula turrets, and they are still size 3. It's got a few different components inside, and also it's got a very golden cover to it, but it's not that different. It's really not that different. Yeah, no, it's literally just a different paint scheme. Probably a little bit more expensive, but that's about it, really. Arguably, it's just, if you like the paint scheme, go for it. If you don't bother. It also has the rather unique design. I mean, to be fair, I don't know why. I don't want to say this, but I don't think I've ever seen that particular version of this. Is that just the same as that one? It is just the same. I was thinking to myself, oh wow, that looks like a different one. I've never seen that before. And it's like, no, it's the same one. It's just you've never bothered to look up when doing that. I pay attention to things, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, so yeah, the Renegade. I can't really say a huge amount on it because it's just a Titan with a different paint scheme and tarantula turrets instead of energy weapons. What do you fucking do? It's definitely a useful ship if you like that kind of thing, but really it's not that fancy. It's just, I don't really care for the decor, but that's just me. That's my own personal opinion. Yours may vary, and if you do like that thing, then by all means go for mad. Speaking of going mad, I know one player who went mad when I got rid of him. I'm just going to rub that in there. It's been years since I've done it, but I'm still going to rub it in there. This is, of course, the Aegis Eclipse. One of the stealth bombers inside Star Citizen, and the only other vessel in Star Citizen that has access to size 9 torpedoes. It has 3 of the fuckers, which if we go into here, you will see inside this little pod area here. It is a very nice looking ship. Like, in terms of aesthetics, it is fucking gorgeous. And well worth any... If you ever do decide to... If you're in the weird position where you can get this for nothing, then go for it. I actually had a friend of mine who somehow, in a radio contest, was able to get this vessel for free. I think the content... I think he was talking about how they were sort of talking about, like... He ended up sort of typing in the comment section of the video saying, "Oh, Eclipse," and they were basically like saying, I think he timed it to the T, where he was able to sort of guess the name of the new craft before anyone had even finished speaking the sentence, and so that's how he got an Eclipse, which is rather funny. But yeah, this thing is quite awesome. If I can... I want to open up the craft's engines a bit, because then that way we can actually see what devils may have inside. And I know that I don't have the power on. Do we have any exteriors option to open? It's got a nice internal system, and as you can see from the visual display, it's not bad in terms of where is it? They're not going to let us do it. I mean, bearing in mind, when you go into the showreel edition of the ship, it's kind of on a weird deactivated/activated angle, because obviously this thing is not designed, it's purposely designed to not do anything, because obviously if a player could launch a size 9 torpedo in this thing, it would be kind of dangerous. Just a small thing. Is it just fixed? Or is it gimbaled? Yeah, it's fixed. So you've got size 2 guns as sort of a defense. But basically, underneath here, you've got access to 3 size 9 torpedoes. And the main intention of this vessel is, of course, to drop the payload and blow it up, blow up said target before it's detected. And it's a very good ship at that. But obviously, the moment it's detected, kind of dies really quickly. And funnily enough, the story goes, there's a story in this where I ended up shooting down one of these things who was attempting to claim a bounty. Long story short, we were coming up to the end of a clan-related activity, and as players had, not turned off the comlink, there were a few with a bounty on their heads. Optimistic man decided to come along and attack. And to be fair, he did initially do the correct thing when he come into contact with us, because we basically had a Valkyrie parked on the side picking up the troops. This guy tried to just dump a bunch of size 9 torpedoes and sort of bug out, but I don't think he had the right launching pattern, or he decided to, or because we had landed in a sort of semi-rocky location, the torpedoes kind of decided to take an interesting line and smack into the side of a mountain. We won't know. But what we do know is that the first torpedo missed. The second torpedo we shot out of the sky. Get in. And the third one missed. After I spammed the universe with all the flares and shafts and what have you. And rather than doing the intelligent thing, of course, which is to leave the area, he decided to go into combat with this thing in a dogfight with the size 2, admittedly at the time, Gatling guns, the honey badgers. This thing does not dogfight very well with Gatling guns. So after a few minutes of attempted dogfighting and, well, relatively decent piloting on my part, I was able to get the kill, because I was the one who got the homicide charge. I still have the footage from that, and I might even release it one day. I might even release it as part of the thing from this particular video, just to prove that I'm not making this shit up. It's my proudest fucking moment in Star Citizen. I'm so happy I still have that. Oh, I'm now getting paranoid that I didn't lose. I might have lost it. No, I'll double check. I'll triple check. But yeah, holy shit. Oh, good times, good times. Anyway. As much as good times remembering the foolish demise of a rather optimistic pilot is fun and all, we do need to get on with the finishing touches of the day, which is, of course, the holodeck. So, without further ado, let's get over there. So, here we are in the holodeck, and, well, already we're at the end of the day, which is kind of sad. But still, we must do this regardless. And we get to see the, finger quote, future of Aegis Vanguard in Star Citizen. And as you can see, the first vessel, which technically speaking has been in the surface for a few years, as you read by the description. This is, of course, the Aegis Nautilus. This is the dedicated mine layer of Aegis Vanguard. And the first mine-laying sort of ship inside Star Citizen, which looks pretty kind of cool. Like, it's... I'll be honest with you, I'm not overly fussed about the Nautilus. Don't get me wrong. The concept is a pretty cool one. I mean, not only do you have the ability to lie in mines, but apparently this vessel will also have the ability to deploy drones in it as well. So it definitely will be a pretty cool looking spacecraft, to say the least. And also depends on... looking into the future, we do also can see, questions like, will the player base like this? What kind of players will utilize this? How will this impact future content in terms of what the players will do to counter these? Because obviously there are some things that we know from experience, say in games like EVE Online, it's just EVE Online, isn't it? No, I mean, technically you could say also Elite Dangerous as well, but I don't really know too much about certain fleets. Maybe No Man's Sky, but I think primarily it's just EVE Online we're talking about in terms of experience here. And having something like that would be... Yeah, having something like that in terms of experience, you don't really see this much. At least, you don't really see this as commonly as that. So, ships like this, do preside a rather interesting question. And I look forward to the day when this particular vessel comes out. if not because, you know, it's another new ship for us to enjoy, but also what kind of concepts and effectiveness it could be going into Star Citizen. So going on into the other room, we do actually have a vessel that I am much, much more interested in. And, okay, we'll just, there's just a scientist looking at me like, don't ignore them. They are completing with this experiment and you will not notice them. Okay, Mr. Hans, I'll look away. So yes, this is the Aegis of Vulcan. I don't even need to look, but I will look anyway for the sake. And it's not working! We need a Vulcan to fix it! Oh no, though it is working now. See, it fixed it. So yes, basically, fuel repair, rearm. Become a one-person support crew with Aegis Dynamics, versatile Vulcan supplying aid to pilots on the fly with a pin down under heavy fire in need of ammunition, low on quantum fuel after an ill-planned jump, or stranded in unknown space with a busted thruster. A pilot in distress can always count on a Vulcan and its cadre of drones to lend speedy and efficient assistance. Yes, that's right, you heard it right, drones as well. This is what I mean about efficiency within Star Citizen's drones and everything else. It's rather awesome. This is, of course, the wonderful vessel, and it does look really nice. And you can probably tell as well the kind of player I am in relation to why I like this ship so much. It's a really cool vessel, and I'm keen on seeing whether or not, like, that this is something that, as a kind of job role, I love the sound of already. Because basically, being able to resupply players, not in just a military sense, but in just a general sense, would be a really cool concept to sort of work with in Star Citizen, because, you know, instead of just having to rely on a station or anything, you can more or less have everything you need in one place. For argument's sake, you could be running as part of like a traveling merchant crew, and you've got, for example, a Kraken privateer with a Vulcan as, you know, and a few other sort of military vessels as escort, giving you that ultimate freedom to sort of just set up shop at a random location and be 100% free from having to worry about UEE guidelines or anything else. Obviously, there's the inherent risk of, well, you're going to be in nullsec when it comes to dealing with stuff, but on the other hand, you're also going to be in a really good position in terms of potentially getting the more illicit goods, shall we say. And no, it looks really nice. I love this style of ship, and the fact that we're going to have some more drones as well is going to be wonderful. I do wonder if vessels like this will be utilized as part of the show reel when drones become more of a thing in Star Citizen. Actually, when they are becoming active, because I definitely feel that drones. This would be a good ship to start having drones being used alongside, most definitely, without a doubt. But sadly, that is it for today. We've had a pretty decent Aegis day, I'd say. There's been a fair amount of decent aircraft. I mean, again, it's Invictus Launch Week. We're not really getting to see the whole full cadre. It is more... Okay. It is more militarily focused, obviously, and Aegis dynamics are more militarily focused, but I don't know, like, as terms of ship manufacturers, at first I did like them a lot. They were almost my #1 favorite. But then I kind of fell in love more with Crusader Industries rather than Aegis Dynamics, and well, you know the story about that. But regardless, Aegis Dynamics is a pretty decent ship company with a very good heavy fighter and a few other decent fighters as well. And I think if you're getting into Star Citizen, obviously the Titan Avenger is the first thing you want to get, but if you want to sort of broaden your horizons in combat, you've got some friends you want to play into combat with, then Aegis Dynamics have got certain ships that are more than capable of giving you a good runaround, whilst also making things interesting. You know, whilst being reliable, but also interesting in terms of how things shape up. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Not as bad frames this time, touch wood. And obviously, going forward, we'll hopefully get... I think as I'm going closer and closer down into here, we'll actually get the worst frames. But still, hopefully, coming into the next one, we'll be getting some even better frames. But no, the next day, which I'm looking very much forward to, is Anvil Aerospace. Yeah, this is the more chaddiest ship developer, and they get the nicer toys. And also, we might see some really cool, awesome new equipment stuff as well. We might also see some new ships coming out of Anvil Aerospace, because I don't really know if there is any new ships coming out of Anvil Aerospace or not. I'm just excited. I prefer Anvil Aerospace anyway. It's got the very nice looking ship. Anyway, apart from that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in on Anvil Day. This is Mr. Jaeger signing out. Have a good one, guys.